So the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection just came out, and within the collection we got 7 classic fighting games, all involving the collaborative efforts of both Marvel and Capcom. But out of all of the titles that have come out with this collection, there's one game that seems to just be getting the most hype out of all the others. The one game that everyone keeps talking about, and could be the reason why we buy the fighting collection to begin with. And that is...
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. New Age of Heroes.
MvC2 is a staple of fighting game history. It seems like everyone who's ever been into fighting games played MvC2, and even people who don't play fighting games love MvC2. There's been great moments from the game that are still referenced to this day, like...
Marvel, baby! Marvel, baby!
And...
Yo, you wanna learn how to do a fucking infinite?
And who could forget the banger character selection music? There's just one issue if you're planning to play Marvel 2 for the first time. This game has been out for almost 25 years, which means that people have been playing and getting good at this game for over 2 decades. Almost everything has been found out about this game, and there's nothing left to explore as far as optimal play goes. If you play fighting games at all, you would know that the best time to play a fighting game is right when it comes out. You have tons of people to play with, everyone's learning the game together, and there's lots of new players also jumping in at the same time that you could play against. But can the same be said for Marvel? Is it worth the money to buy this collection? Can you, or I, as a fighting game casual, be able to get into Marvel vs. Capcom 2? Or will the Wazzler come for you and force you to refund the game?
Oh, he said, nah? Oh, that's definitely a refund. Alright, that's a refund there.
Join me on this short quest as we find out the answers to these questions, and you can decide for yourself if you're ready to jump into this fighting game classic. Let's say you're like me. I love fighting games, but I wouldn't consider myself a veteran or even super good at them. I'd say my skill level on fighting games that I've gotten into are above average, but definitely not pro level. I am competitive when it comes to fighting games, and I love playing online against people, but I would consider myself more of a casual if anything. I do my research, I lab my combos, and I like to watch pro players play in tournaments so I can learn more for myself. I even went to EVO in 2023 knowing full well that I was probably not going to make it out of pools, and I got to play against Daigo in Street Fighter 6. My experience with fighting games is definitely more of a newcomer level. I was always interested in them, but I've never had anyone to play with. None of my friends were interested, and they all wanted to play FPS games, so I just played FPS games with them. The only fighting game I was really able to play with my friends, if you can call it that, is Super Smash Bros. I got into Project M around the time that it was announced, and I played a lot of local tournaments. And then after that I fell into the Melee pipeline and started playing Super Smash Bros. Melee competitively. My first real fighting game that I learned to play more than just button mashing was Street Fighter V on release, and when I learned some combos and I played a little ranked, I had a lot of fun with it. But I quit shortly after because I was playing other games with my friends instead. I dabbled in some Tekken 7 and some Dragon Ball FighterZ, and then the first time I went all in on a fighting game was in Street Fighter 6. I mained Lily and I was able to get to Master Rank after about a month or so after release. At this point, it didn't matter if I had friends playing with me or not because I was enjoying the progress of getting better at these games and learning a lot of new things. Now I'm buying every new fighting game I can and learning a lot about it and having fun with it. I could probably make a 30-minute video about the journey of getting into fighting games, but I'll save that for another time. So I have a confession to make. I've never played MvC2 at more than a button mashing level. I remember seeing cabinets for Marvel all the time when I was a kid. They were everywhere. Arcades, movie theaters, they were even in the back of the Pizza Huts. I promise you, they had Pizza Hut buffets inside, and then in the back there were these little arcades with games in there. If you were born in the 90s or before, you know what I'm talking about. But all the time, out of any of the fighting games that are there, I always put quarters into Marvel 2. I don't know why. I think it was just the bright visuals or the huge character roster, but I loved playing it. I was never into Marvel, the franchise, as a kid, or even much currently, but I thought being able to play as Ryu against Spider-Man was like the coolest shit ever. Of course, being a kid, I never really learned how to play the game properly. I would just mash all the buttons and hope that I could win against the CPU in arcade mode so I could keep playing the game without spending all my quarters. I always picked Ryu on my team because he was the only character I knew how to do special moves with, so I would always just spam Hadoukens and Tatsus. But now, I'm a changed man. A grown-ass man. I pay bills, I work my 9 to 5, so I'm capable of learning how to play this game after all these years. I never bought Marvel 2 on Xbox Arcade, and I never bought it on Dreamcast either because look at those prices, holy. But now that the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection is out, we can legally play this game online against other players. I know Fightcade exists, but I have crippling anxiety and I don't want to ask people to play, especially as a beginner. But the matchmaking in MvC fighting game collection is a godsend. Okay, I've done enough yapping about myself. It's time to play the game.
Time to play the game.
I'll walk you through my thought process when starting this game. So I already know that the best characters in the game are Magneto, Storm, Sentinel, Cable, blah blah blah. But like I said earlier, I'm not a huge Marvel fan, and I want to play as characters that I personally like. I want to like the character design, their personality, their special moves, and of course this means I'm not going to get very far competitively, but if I were to play a top tier team, I don't think I'd really enjoy playing the game that much. The entire point of playing fighting games for me is choosing my favorite characters no matter the tier list and trying to do my best with them. First I'm going to see how I can do with my own team, and then I could change characters later on if I'm really having a tough time. So here's my team. For the first character, or point character, I chose Jill from Resident Evil. She was a character I loved to pick later on in my late childhood because I just thought that the fact that a survival horror character was added into a classic fighting game and had so many cool moves and references to Resident Evil was just so sick. My mom used to play Resident Evil all the time when I was young because I was too scared to play it by myself. I would get to the first zombie cutscene in the first game and then immediately turn off the console because I couldn't handle looking at it. But I loved watching my mom play. Also, I just love Jill's animations. Her victory animations are cute. The zombie and the dog animations are cute. And then she also just says dumb stuff.
I'm a member of STARS.
And she's also just very quotable in general.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
Jill can work as a point character because she has good damage without using much meter for a non-top tier, and she has decent mobility for a non-top tier. Jill was my first sure pick, no matter what, because I wanted to build a team around her. I felt like I wouldn't play Marvel vs. Capcom 2 if it wasn't for Jill being in the game. I saw online that a good second pick for Jill is Gambit,
but you can call me the Gambit
because of his assist. And a lot of Jill teams also involved having Gambit that I saw online, so I decided to go with him. It was actually a perfect pick even though I said I wasn't a huge Marvel fan. To stop myself from picking a full Capcom team when I was younger, I would always go through the Marvel side and try to decide on a character that I liked. And I picked Gambit a few times back then because I just loved his design. His hair was super cool, his cape is flowing, and he threw cards and beat people with a stick. I always thought he would say credit card whenever he would do his projectile.
Come on, Mona, get it.
I knew nothing about Gambit as a kid, but he was cool and I would pick him alongside the other cool anime guys that I liked, like Strider, Ryu, Hayato, and Jin. Until I did the move on accident where Jin got naked and then I never picked him again. I don't know what people would think if I picked him all the time. Also, when I saw Deadpool vs. Wolverine this year, it sealed my opinion that Gambit is indeed a cool guy.
I ain't know my daddy, but I'm sure I shot out of his dick ready.
So I'd be dumb not to pick him. For the final character on the team, or the anchor, I chose Dr. Doom. Because, well...
MF Doom!
I know, I said I don't like Marvel, and 2/3 of my team is Marvel, but I've grown up. I have different tastes now. I love MF Doom, and Dr. Doom is just super cool. The dive kick that he does is so iconic. He just looks so cold. The heavy punch in the air where he shoots his dumb little gun and the Kamehameha projectile. He's also great for spending meter and does a lot of damage, and he's probably one of the only high tiers on the team that I was really interested in playing, so he's going to be a good anchor on the team.
What are you guys doing?
So with my team fully assembled, we gotta go to training mode and learn the basics of our characters and some B&Bs, or bread and butter combos. Combos that we can reliably land and use in our matches. Thankfully, after doing a little digging and seeing some of the intro videos done by other fighting game content creators, I found out that Marvel 2 actually has a universal combo that everybody can use. Universal combos are great for learning new fighting games because there's something that you can do with every character. And once you learn a universal combo, you can have fun with almost every character in the game. So Marvel 2 is a 4-button fighter, which means that there's only 4 buttons that make your main character attack. There's light punch, light kick, heavy punch, and heavy kick. If you're a boomer, you might call these jab, roundhouse, and some other stuff. I forgot what they call them. So where are the medium punches and kicks? Well, in this game, when you land a light punch or a light kick and then press another light punch or a light kick, you will do a medium punch or a medium kick instead. So pressing light punch will actually do a light punch, medium punch. The universal combo that everyone can do is basically pressing your light attack, then your medium attack, then your launcher attack, which can usually be down and heavy punch, but on some characters the launcher may be different. Once you launch your opponent, you jump up with them and input a light attack, medium attack, and a heavy attack to knock them back down. And there you go, you learned your first universal combo. Once you're more comfortable with fighting games, you can mix in some extra special moves to start or end the combo. So I spent some time learning my universal combos and some enders for them. And I also found this combo that Maximilian dude, who coincidentally also has a Jill Gambit team, where he uses the Gambit assist to hold the enemy in place to allow Jill to call a fire zombie, and continue a combo to allow the opponent to land directly on the zombie and reset the combo. The cool thing about this combo is that the fire zombie is actually unblockable, and the opponent has no way to avoid this reset. So although the combo counter resets, there's no way to avoid getting hit by this. I practiced this combo for almost 2 hours until I was finally able to land it on the training dummy semi-consistently. So next, before playing against real people, I went into arcade mode and made sure I could land a majority of my combos against bots. The beginning AI in this game is pretty easy, so it felt like training mode, but there wasn't really a lot of times where I could practice the Jill Gambit setup. After running through arcade, which actually felt great because now I feel semi-confident at the game, and I'm sure if by the off chance I run into a Marvel 2 cabinet anywhere in public in the year 2024, I'm sure to whip some arcade ass. But after running arcade, I felt confident enough to get my ass beat by some real people in casual. It actually wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I won some matches and lost some matches, but maybe because the game was released there was a lot of new players playing casual as well. And there wasn't even a lot of high tier teams either. A lot of players were just playing whatever they want. Throughout this whole time playing casual for the next few days, I was genuinely enjoying the game and having a lot of fun with it. But then we played ranked. Now, at first ranked was fine. I won my first ever ranked match, and I was still winning and losing matches just like in casual with the same team that I've been playing. I was still having fun and feeling like there was a little something on the line, but in the end ranked really doesn't matter. So I managed to climb all the way to gold using my same team. But even just around the silver level, I stopped seeing the fun low to mid tier teams and started running into a lot more high tier teams. I'm not complaining at all because, you know, I did purposely choose a mid to low tier team. If it was any other modern fighting game, it would be okay. There's always high and low tiers, but there's also balance patches. This game has obviously not had any balance patches for almost 25 years. In fact, as of this recording, there was a glitch that was removed in the fighting game collection where Juggernaut was able to power up temporarily, swap to another character, and keep that powered up state forever as an assist. That was removed in the fighting collection, but it was patched back in as a changeable option. Oh, and that option is kept in for ranked mode. So after the patch, I started getting one-shot by Juggernauts one after another, and there was also a bunch of big boy teams, which I'm pretty sure was because of Jay Wong. So now in ranked, I'm out here getting infinited on by Iron Man, Nike Dunk stomped by Sentinel, full screen supered by Storm, and Magneto is just fucking teleporting everywhere because this man is just too fast for the rollback netcode. This is not lag or edited footage, this is literally what it looks like when the opponent picks Magneto and starts jumping all over the place. But like I said, I'm not complaining, this is what I signed up for. Once ranked became more frustrating to play and deteriorating on my mental health, I decided to join the dark side and see if I could pick up some high tier characters. I knew I wanted to pick an easy team because I didn't want to spend too much time learning the harder god tier characters because this game can have some brutal execution. So I went with Team Scrub, which was Cable, Sentinel, and Captain Commando. I played a little bit with the characters, but in the end I just really didn't feel like dedicating the time to learning them. I also tried Team Scrubclops where you replace Sentinel with Cyclops, but it just wasn't hitting for me. At the end of the day, you want to play a game because you're having fun with it, and just thinking of playing characters I'm not a fan of or have any emotional attachment to kind of spoils the fun for me. This may be different if I actually enjoyed the way that high level Marvel is played, but when I watch high level Marvel tournaments, it's nothing I really get too hyped for personally. I do like how fast paced the game can be, but I just don't think that it's the game for me. I'm not a huge tag fighter anyway, but maybe if you really like tag fighters you can get into it. I really enjoyed 2XKO a lot when the alpha was here, and something like that is what I can have a lot of fun with. But Marvel 2 didn't exactly scratch that itch I was looking for. It may be because the neutral is just a little bit too chaotic for me, or just the amount of chaos all over the screen was just overwhelming. It is worth noting that there's a format of Marvel 2 made by the community called Ratio, where you're given a certain amount of points and you could spend those points to create a team and play against others in a tournament. But this was also a little restricting because you're still not exactly picking the characters that you want, but it does give other lesser picked characters some time to shine. It's cool, but it's just not what I'm looking for. So for my closing thoughts, Marvel 2 was definitely worth the learning experience, even as someone who only wants to play as their favorite characters. If I were to compare Marvel 2 to any game that I know, it feels a lot like the Melee of fighting games. Lots of history of the game, no balance patches, wide gap between the tiers of the characters that you could choose, and a really high execution ceiling. If you want to play Marvel competitively, I think it's certainly doable to reach a certain level if you're willing to put in the hours to learning the game and picking a viable team. If you watch high-level Marvel tournaments and think that the fights look like a lot of fun, then you'll definitely enjoy playing the game. I'm glad I gave it a try, and of course there's always still 6 other games to enjoy in the fighting collection. And after playing all those casually and running arcade and training modes in those games, I'm currently sitting at about...
It's like $1 an hour.
And I got my money's worth out of the game, and sometimes even now I still get an itch to come back and play my Jill team and see if there's any other players playing lower tiered teams. So let me know if you decided to give the fighting collection a try and how you're liking it so far. If you're watching this video more than a year later, then I apologize in advance if you do decide to give it a try for the casual experience and end up only going against veterans in matchmaking. Now I'm going to reward myself after finishing this video by playing some Terry in Street Fighter 6. See ya!
Sorry.